Welcome back to Duckman Cycles VW Garage. I'm your host, the Duckman. We're back today with my midday Q&A video. That's right, the midday Q&A video. This is a video where I do a whole lot of this and less of this. If that makes sense to you. This is where I try to answer your questions for anything that comes up during the week. Typically of my tech videos that you see over on Duckman Cycles. Now this is probably going to be the last Q&A video that you see up here on Duckman Cycles. I think Duckman Cycles, I'm going to focus a lot more on the technical stuff, and I'm going to take all the blabbermouth stuff like my midday Q&As and move them over to VV the Duck VV channel. It seems to make more sense because that channel has a lot more of stuff with me talking and, you know, lifetime experiences and the things that I'm getting into and that kind of stuff. If you'd like to follow me, you're going to want to subscribe over to VV the Duck VV over on my other YouTube channel. I'll put a link down here in the video description. You'll also see it at the bottom of the screen. It'll also be in the first video comments, so please go over to that channel and click subscribe. Also pluck the little dingle belly over there, that way you get updates every time I upload a new video, both here and over on VV the Duck VV. But the first thing we're going to talk about today is going to be my Fastback. I also want to show what the phosphoric acid did to that paint on the old 1956 Beetle door that came off of Eleanor when I first got her. But anyways, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, pluck the dingle belly, that we get updates every time I upload a new video. Duckman Cycles VW Garage up on the Facebook group page. And if you'd like to email me, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll be back right after the intro. Alright, you probably remember we tested the phosphoric acid on the paint of the 1956 Beetle door. We wanted to see what kind of difference the phosphoric acid would do to the oxidation and chalkiness of the paint. And you can see right behind me, there's a significant difference. And this sucker has been sitting out here for, probably 2 months, maybe even a little bit longer than that. And you can see that green stripe, which is nice and shiny, and the color is even. It's clean looking. It probably could use a good scrubbing, but yeah, it certainly deoxidized the paint. And I think had I have left it on a little bit longer, it probably would have done an even better job than that. So yes, I do feel that phosphoric acid is something you could use on old chalky paint. Since I uploaded the video, I actually went and did a little research, and I found that some of the manufacturers of the phosphoric acid actually do recommend putting it on old chalky paint to clean the paint up. So there's a possibility I might just do that to Ruby. I'll put a couple of spots in a few test areas and see if I can bring the paint out, but the paint on that has just been awfully chalky, and I've been putting a lot of wax on it and stuff, and it'll look good for maybe a week or two, and then you got to reapply it, and that's kind of a lot of work. Before we get into that, it's of course going to be a tech video over on Duckman Cycles. We're going to have a look at the carburetors on this and the intake system that I put on, as well as the air cleaners that I've upgraded. And yeah, it's still actually a discussion. We're still doing a lot of talk about that, so let's go ahead and check out what we've got. Right here in the back of my 1968 Fastback, we have two DeLorto 34 Frd carburetors. These carburetors have been really, really good to me. The previous owner installed them his mechanic installed them because he told the mechanic, I don't care what you do, make the car run, I'm trying to sell it. And you know how that is. Previous owners do that kind of stuff to move the car. The car was a good price, I bought it anyway, but one of the big problems I had is these carburetors that were on here used to be fuel injected and they were not set up properly. This car was just a mess when I got it. Everything from fuel pumps that ran at 30 psi into carburetors that run 3 psi to being extremely dirty to having little things misadjusted. Accelerator pump on one side wasn't working at all. Another side was actually just dripping because one of the little plungers that's inside of the accelerator pump actually wasn't closing when you weren't on the accelerator, so it just actually kept shooting a little squirt in there. So one side would run extremely rich and the other side would run extremely lean, and that's if it wasn't overflowing with gas altogether and then blowing it out the tailpipe. So yeah, this thing was a mess. But I retuned these carburetors, got them cleaned, and got them running good. But the problem was the linkage was crap, so I updated the linkage to the CB Performance kit that you see in here. And the problem that I had was the air cleaners would not fit under the lip of this trunk, and it turned out because this trunk had been crushed. Somebody put just entirely too much weight in the back of this trunk and crushed the back of this car down. And you can see in some places, like right over there, where the metal's a little bit crimped. I mean, there's some bends and some twists. I also discovered some rust along the rear valence here when I pulled the carpet out. So this car still needs a little bit more work, but really I got it working in such a way that I could change out these air cleaners. I did a little research and I discovered that K&N actually created a set of air cleaners that were a little shorter than these. They're about 1/4 of an inch shorter. even after stretching the lip of the trunk back up to where it belonged, it was still really, really hard to put on the air cleaner, particularly on the right side. Not so much the left, but the right side is extremely hard to do. So I decided that, well, maybe I should look into these air cleaners that are 1/4 of an inch shorter. I went and looked up some prices on them. They're kind of expensive. They're roughly $45 or something each. I forget what the exact price of it was, but they weren't the cheapest. But after I had looked at them, of course, what happens? All these different websites start sending you advertisements. And the advertisements that are popping up, Black Friday sale on the air cleaners. I ended up finding them for about $35 each. So I ordered a set. We're going to open up that box. They just arrived today. And we're going to compare them to the stock air cleaner, which I actually have already pulled off, and I put it on my workbench inside. And we're going to have a look at them and compare the differences, and you guys are going to get to see exactly how much of a difference this air cleaner is going to make and how much of a space savings we're going to have because of it. So join me. We'll step on inside to my workbench. Now, if you guys are watching yesterday, remember that I welded this carburetor shut because he had a hole that looked like somebody drilled a hole in about 1/8 of an inch at the bottom of this carburetor, so I luma welded it shut. When we returned back to the garage, we looked at his air cleaner assemblies that he had in here, and one of the things that I noticed, because these things are very similar to mine, is that one of them was a lower profile than the other, of approximately up to 1/4 of an inch. So when I took the lid off of it, and I looked, I discovered that somebody had cut down the air cleaner to make it work. So we had discussed before that Type 3 CB Performance air cleaners and a lot of different aftermarket air cleaners don't fit very well. They need a little bit of extra space, particularly on the right-hand side. The left-hand side, not so much. Left-hand side fits better, but the right-hand side is really, really tough to make it fit properly. And somebody actually made this modification to this air cleaner here and made this all fit. And I did discover that using a air cleaner from Indian Motorcycle will actually give you the correct diameter that you need, and it'll give you that height difference, which is less than 1/4 of an inch, so that way it'll fit better. And damn it, I can't get this lid back on here. And it turned out one of the studs was a little bent. That's why it required 2 hands to put it on. But you see that difference in the height. Yeah, it's about 1/4 of an inch difference, and that's what somebody made the difference of there, doing that little trimming on the air cleaner. All right, we're going to put the sucker back together so Don doesn't lose his parts. Right, Mr. Don?
Right.
That's it. Put it all back together the way we found it. Wish I could find my wing nuts. These things are threaded differently. That's interesting. I think you bought this stuff at a swap meet. Don's known for being cheap. You didn't hear me. Alright, we'll finish turning these bolts on down and put everything back in his bundle here for him. Looking in this bin here of stuff that belongs to Don, there's actually, looks like 2 whole entire kits of CB Performance intake linkage sets and air cleaners. I should have probably talked to him first. I bet you I probably could have given him a $50 bill and he would have let me walk away with the whole thing. Alright, let's put his bin back together.
He did not get a shirt.
Hey, thanks for sticking with me. We're at the inside shop right now. This is my little work area that I work on inside projects. It's much better climate control. It's either cooled in the summer or heated in the winter, of course, so it's nice and comfortable inside here. Now, this is the air cleaner. I don't want to say stock, but it's not actually stock, but it's stock for the CB Performance aftermarket kit. And these are a little bit taller than the Indian motorcycle air filters that should be in this box here. Now, you probably noticed, yeah, it's an Amazon box. That's the Black Friday discount sale that I had, came from them. So we see what we got in here. And it should be that. I mean, unless it turns out to be a vibrator or something that I ordered. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the right thing. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Yep. There they are. 2 K&N air cleaners. These should be the ones that I'm looking at here. Yep, E39, I can't even read. E3290s. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Yep, 3290. Yep, 3290. A whole bunch of paper in there and stickers and congratulations, they're washable, and it's basic instructions and some decals. Stop, do not discard. The use of a K&N air filter will not void your vehicle's warranty. Yeah, okay, that's stuff that I really needed to know. Okay, compared to the stock air cleaner, it looked to be about the right size. Hang on a second here. Oh no. Unbelievable. This is supposed to be 1.5 inches tall. This is 1.75 inches. They are exactly the same height. I don't believe it. K&N's website said that this air filter was going to be 1.5 inches tall. Wow. Looking at their manufacturing of it, it's really sloppy too. Look at the buzzy, wavy line along here. It's all chunky. I wonder if this might... That's some lousy manufacturing. Really terrible. Look, it's tall here, and it gets shorter over here. This thing isn't even straight. I don't believe it. It's actually tall in some places and short in some others. This is supposed to be 1.5 inches tall. But it's 1.75 inches in some spots, and some it's 1.5 inches. No, this is a fail. This is a massive fail coming from K&N. Wow, you know, you pay a premium. Once again, you pay a premium for a better product, and you get crap. This is not what I ordered. This is not what I wanted. I wanted something that was going to have a lower profile than the air cleaner that I currently have, and I ordered it per the specs on K&N's website for a E3290 filter, which is intended for an Indian motorcycle, which has the same diameter. Yeah, that way it looks like it's going to be the right size. But the height of it is all wrong. It's not even straight. Is the other one that way too? Yeah, this one's that way too. I'm not going to open up the bag on that one. I'm not even going to open up the bag. That one, you know, these are just going to go back. These are just going to go back if they can't get it right. And I mean, these are cheap air cleaners from CB Performance. I think these are like $12, $13, $14, $15 each. These are 3 times the price, retail, 3 times the price. And they're wrong, and they're ugly. And these, there's nothing wrong with them at all. I mean, it's a little crooked in here because I kind of beat it up a little bit when I installed it, but that was on me. This is just, no, unacceptable. Just totally unacceptable. All right, these are going back. Well, these are going back unused. Unused. I'm not even going to argue. I'm not going to have them send me a second set. What I have works fine. I just only bought these because I got the Black Friday sale on it. That was the only reason why I did. So these suckers are going to get boxed back up. And because it's Amazon and I do have a Prime account, it means I get free returns too. I really hate to do that to Amazon though. It's not Amazon's fault that these things are wrong. You know, that's part of the customer agreement. It's what I paid for. $130 or whatever it is a year now. So that goes back. Anyway, my stock air cleaner goes back on. But before we get into any of that, and I'm going to use this only as a demonstration, but Frd Carburetors, and this is not an Frd carburetor, this is actually a stock Solex carburetor, and I believe this sucker might even be never used. Just looking inside of there, I mean, the thing is spotless. It came out of a styrofoam package out of some stuff that I got on a trade. So I think this is a brand new Solex made in Germany carburetor, and I think this thing will fetch a pretty penny. Wish I had a date stamp on it to know exactly when it was made, but it's probably been sitting on somebody's shelf for 40 years. No, it's in excellent shape. I mean, it's not even dirty. There's not even any dirt on it at all. I took it apart just to look inside of it, but I mean, even the diaphragm is new. You know, the springs all look new. All the brass fittings look good. The plunger looks to be in good shape. It's still clean and shiny. But anyway, I digress. The Frd carburetors, I looked up, because you remember I patched the hole that was in the bottom of Don's carburetor. And if you hadn't watched that video previously, I showed it to Don, and Don was rather impressed. But there was a little pinhole in it. He decided to drill through it with an 1/8 inch drill, and he was going to get ready to braze it. And I told him that's probably going to be too hot. You're probably going to want something like some cheap aluma weld. So he says, "Well, could you do that for me? You know, I'll buy you lunch or something." I told him he's going to have to give me a handy for it, but that's another story. You had to watch the video. But I took it home. And I went to melt it with the, I went to melt some aluma weld in it, and that's exactly what happened. I melted it instead. But that little 1/8 inch hole blew out to be about the size of a dime. And I wish I had that recorded while I was working on it, but I mean, frankly, I f***ed this carburetor up. I mean, I made a real f***ing mess out of his f***ing carburetor. I noticed that the carburetor melted before the aluma weld, and I thought that was kind of strange, because I thought the loader carburetor was actually made from aluminum. And aluminum melting temperature is about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, and aluma weld's just a little over 700, I think like 730. And there's no reason reason the aluminum should have melted. So I did a little research, and this actually comes from Delorto's documentation, that Delorto's carburetors are made from one of two materials. It's either made from aluminum, or it's made from something called Zamak. Z-A-M-A-K. And apparently it's a real common alloy for things to be made out of, particularly things that are cast and things that are small and simple and need to be inexpensively manufactured. So I went and looked up what is Zamak, and it turns out it's actually a commercialized product that's an alloy, and it's zinc-based, with copper, magnesium, and aluminum added to it in very, very small amounts, but it's over 99% zinc. And what that means is that it melts at a temperature of about 730 degrees. Now, wait a minute. Zinc alloy with those metals in it sounds very familiar. So I went and compared its spec sheet to that of AlumaWeld, and it turns out they're nearly identical, and the melting temperature is about the same. So the answer is, the AlumaWeld and the carburetors are made from pot metal. And pot metal, what it is, it's actually a zinc alloy. And the reason why it melted through the carburetor before it melted the AlumaWeld stick was because the carburetor was really thin. It was very, very thin and very easy for it to melt, whereas the AlumaWeld stick was actually a lot thicker. But anyway, I very delicately melted the stick and dropped it onto the carburetor and got it to tin onto it, just like soldering, because that's actually what it is. And I filled a hole and then gently sanded it smooth and made the carburetor look really nice. And Don was very, very happy with it when he got it back. In fact, he was rather impressed with it because it looked very, very nice. I mean, it looked stock. But anyway, that was the deal on his Frd carburetor and some of the questions about AlumaWeld. I will probably demonstrate how to use AlumaWeld in the near future. People have been constantly asking, since I actually used it a couple different times in a few different videos, just how to use it. And if you can use a soldering iron, well, technically you could use AlumaWeld. The only difference is AlumaWeld is a much higher temperature than solder. I think solder melts at 350, 300, 330, somewhere in there Fahrenheit. And AlumaWeld, of course, is twice that. But it'll work with a propane torch instead of an iron tip. And you can put together or repair things like carburetors. If you do put a little crack in it, or if you bust a tang off or something. And it's also sandable, it's drillable, you can tap it. AlumaWeld is actually a really decent product if you know how to use it. Now, it's certainly not a replacement for welding aluminum back together properly, like a proper TIG weld. But if you're just looking to put a little tang back, let's say you busted the corner off the carburetor, AlumaWeld's perfect for that. And if you made a hole in the carburetor, it's good for filling it in. So don't think of it as a utility for welding together so much as it is for filling a hole, because AlumaWeld is just excellent for that. Anyways, I think that's all for today, so thank you guys very much for watching this video. Now don't forget, the midday Q&As are going to move over to VV, and you can find the link right here on the bottom of this screen. You can also find it down in the video description, and I'll also put the link to my other channel down in the first comment, and I'll pin it. So that way you have a single clickable link that will take you directly to my other channel, where you can click the subscribe button, and you can get the future midday Q&A videos. While you're over there, pluck that dingle belly, and we get updates every time I upload a new video, and midday Q&As are going to be roughly daily. I get them up almost every day. Sometimes I skip a day, sometimes I skip two. The last couple days have been kind of cold, and I've also been working a lot. I kept getting called in for service calls, and I haven't had hardly any in the last few weeks. It's been rather quiet. But yeah, I got buried yesterday. But anyways, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Duckman Cycles VW Garage on the Facebook group page. And if you'd like to email me, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Thanks for watching once again, and we'll see you next time over on the other channel for the next midday Q&A. Don't forget, VV, midday Q&A. Subscribe, check them out. Thank you much. See you next time.